Good morning, students. Saira. How are you all? I hope you all are fine and doing well in your studies. So, students, we have completed our two chapters and also started our third chapter, which is Public, Private, and Global Enterprise. In the first part, we have already learned about what is the public sector, what is the private sector, and what is the global sector. Public sector means which comes under the control of government, means all those PSUs, public sector units, which is controlled by the government, like departmental undertakings, statutory corporations, and government companies. So these are the parts of public enterprises. And private we have already learned in the previous chapter number 2, sole proprietorship, partnership, joint stock company, joint Hindu family business, cooperative society. All these are the examples of private companies. Now, global enterprise, we are also learned about it. For example, MNCs. Now, in this video, in this part of the chapter, we will learn about the public sector. Now, as we discussed, public sector have three elements or three parts, like first one is departmental undertaking, second is statutory corporations, and third one is government companies. So in this video we learn about it. Okay, so let's start one by one. First, we will start with the departmental undertaking. So meaning feature, merits and demerits of departmental undertaking. Now, departmental undertaking, it is a combination of two words, department and undertaking. Department means compartment, separate, and undertaking means under control of. So departmental undertaking means the compartment which is under control of government. Now, what is the meaning of departmental undertaking or departmental enterprises? This is a form of government enterprise which functions under the control of government and having a separate ministry of government. For example, railways, defense, post and telegraph, etc. Departmental enterprises are those enterprises which are controlled by the government or a separate ministry of government, which is own, control, function, finance, all is done by the government. Okay, some of the examples of departmental undertakings are railways, defense, post and telegraph, and etc. Now, what are the characteristics of government enterprises? It is controlled by a government. It is the one feature or a characteristic because it is a part of public sector unit and it is under the control of government. So it is the controlled by one ministry of government. Okay. Now, second characteristic is if it is controlled by a government, so it is also financed by a government. Okay, so this is its second feature. Third one is its revenue, its income, revenue, where it goes to the government treasure. Okay, so this is the third characteristic. Next one is what is its motive? If we do a business, any business, so what is our prime motive is? What is our prime motive? To earn money, to make profit. But here, if we talk about the PSUs, public sector units, its main motive is to serve people. Okay, to give service to the general public, means its motive is to provide service. Okay, so next feature is operated by the civil servant. Who operate this? Means who are the person who operate the departmental undertaking. So it is operated by the civil servants, which is appointed by the government officers. Okay, means the panel of officer select and take interview of the civil servant, then he will start doing work in that department. Okay, so let's discuss its characteristics one by one again. Number one is it is a part of government organization. Okay, second, it is controlled by the government, it is financed by the government, its revenue means its income, it goes to the government treasure. Okay, so next one is its main motive is to provide service. And who work there in the departmental undertaking? Civil servants. And who appoint civil servant? Ministry of government or a panel of government, which panel of officers which is decided by the government. Okay, so these are the characteristics of departmental undertaking. Now, its merit and demerits. There are 5 merits and 6 demerits of departmental undertaking. Let's discuss it one by one. Number 1 is effective control. It is controlled by a government, so there is no chance of any um, illegal activity or any um, indiscipline. So we can say that the control here is effective because it is controlled by the government. Now, public accountability means who is answerable? Public, because its main motive is to serve people, not profit making. So who is accountable? Who is answerable? Public. Now, next advantage is increases government revenue. Look, students, its main motive is to serve people, but government also earn revenue from by providing the service to the people through the departmental undertaking like railways, by providing them cheap fare, or by post and telegraph services. These are the example of this. So it helps to increase the government revenue. Next one is confidentiality. It is controlled, or it has an effective control, so the confidentiality is also there. Next, it is easy to form. It is a part of government and government unit, so it is very easy to form. Okay. Now there are some demerits of departmental undertaking, like number 1 is lack of flexibility. Students, there is a lack of flexibility. Flexibility how? Means it is under the control of government. There are many rules, there are many regulations. The way of doing work is very rigid. So the flexibility is not there. Means if anybody wants to take initiative, wants to do something in a different manner, so he do not allow to do like that, because there is a rigidity in their work, because it is under the control of government, and government provide them a guidelines that how to do a work and what is the manner of doing a work. Okay, so there is a lack of flexibility. Next one is delayed decision making. It is owned, controlled and financed by a government. So if we want to take any decision, so we concern with the government or take permission from the government. After that we take any decision if we are the part of government departmental undertaking. So it is the demerit, because we can't take quick action, prompt actions, okay, or prompt decision. So it delayed decision making. Next one is political interference. It is a part of government, so political interference is also there. If any political party changes, then they make their own different rule. So we have to and if we are the part of the departmental undertaking, so we have to adopt it according to the political party which rule at that time. So political interference is also there. Next one is lack of motivation. There is a lack of motivation due to their slow working, due to there is no competition in the if we are having any private company, so we and we trade in a dynamic market. So we are having our competitors also, but in a government, who is the competitor? Nobody. So if there is no competitor, so the laziness is in their work has become increases, and so that's why there is a lack of motivation to do any task. Next one is red tapeism. Red tapeism means dependency on paperwork. Means these departments fully depend on paperwork, so it takes lots of time, and there is also the mistakes in their work. So it is also a drawback of departmental undertaking. Next one is lack of financial autonomy. Lack of financial autonomy means fund is provided by a government treasure. So if the limited fund is provided by the government, but um, the departmental undertaking wants more money, for example for their renovation, for any purchase of any machine, or for increasing its increasing the size of department or anything. So they want money for their modification, but due to it is under the control of government, there is a lack of financial autonomy. Okay, so these are the merits and demerits of departmental undertaking. Now next part is statutory companies. students, our public sector units are having three arms. Like number one is departmental undertaking like railways, roadways, telegraph and post, Air India. Okay, these are the examples of um, departmental undertaking. Now, the next one is statutory corporations, okay, or statutory companies. Next, now it is incorporated by the name of a special act of parliament or any state legislation. Means if we want to start, if anybody want to open a statutory company, then a special act is passed, then we will start or we will open a statutory company. Means it is under the control of government, but if the government wants to open a statutory company like LIC, Food Corporation, or JK Industry, there are many industries and many corporations. If the government wants to open any LIC, means Life Insurance Corporation of India, in another part of the India, or any rural part of the India, so what the government do? They pass a law, they pass a special act of parliament, and then they will incorporate these statutory companies. Okay, so these special act of parliament is passed by the central legislation or state legislature also. Okay, so some of the examples are Food Corporation of India, LIC, JK Industry, JKSRTC, and these are governed by the act creating by them. So I repeat again, statutory companies are those companies or those corporations which are made by the government by passing a act by the parliament or any state legislature. So if we want to open a statutory company, then the government pass the legislature, then they start doing work on that and open any statutory company in any part of the India. So these are the part of public companies, and so that they are governed, run, controlled, managed by the government also. Okay, now features of public corporations. Formation by the act of central or state legislation. It is formed by anybody, whether it is a central or state legislature. Now they are having a separate legal entity. Next, management and control by the board of directors. Look students, in public corporations or statutory corporation, there is a board of directors who are appointed by the government, so that they manage and control these departments, these corporations. Okay, and these are fully financed by the government. Next part is borrowing power. It can borrow from the public. How can they borrow from the public? They have a right to issue shares, so that they borrow from the public also. Now stuffing. No civil servant and governed by contract of service. Means there is no uh, there is no there is no compulsion that there is a civil servant. It is also governed by the or selected by the government or the board of the directors, the panel who appoint the employees in that corporations. Okay, so now their merits and demerits. Their merits are: number one, administrative autonomy. Means here who operate this board of director, means who are the administrators, board of directors, so that they are not fully dependent on government. So this is the merit of statutory corporation. Like in second part, quick decision. They make their decision very quickly because they are having administrative autonomy. Means they are governed by the government, but they are managed by the board of directors who are appointed by the government, so that they do not need to um, consult again and again with the government or take permission from the government for any small activity, so they can easily take their decision themselves. Next, their merit is service motive. Their main advantage is that it is for providing service. Next one is efficient staff. There is the staff is very efficient because they are selected by the board of directors, and who are also very efficient and very highly qualified officers who select their staff. Okay, so the efficiency is also there. Next, professional management. As I said, the management, the administrative is really is full of the qualified or highly qualified persons, so that there is um, the the management is very professional, or the professional efficiency is also there, means it is very smoothly managed by the board of directors. Now, demerits. Autonomy on paper only, means there is also a red tape, means they are fully dependent on paperwork. Okay, lack of initiative. Lack of initiative is also there because it is a part of government, so lack of initiative is also there because there is no any, you know, spirit of competition among them, so the initiative is also lacking because they don't want to initiate anything because they know that there is nobody to nobody is there to compete. Okay, next one is rigid structure. Rigidity is also there because it is a part of government. In many cases, they have to do according to the policies and the procedures which are planned by the government. Okay, means they work according to them, so there is a lack of initiative and lack of flexibility is also there. Next is unfair practices. Unfair practices, the chance of unfair practices is also there because it is fully managed by the administration, which is the board of director, which is selected by the government. So unfair trade practices is also there. Okay, now government government companies. The third and the final part of public sector unit is government companies. Look, student, the company which share, means which whose 51% share is owned by the government, is known as government company. Like its definition, a government company is a company in which 51% of the paid up share capital is central or state government. Means any company whose 51 or more than 51% share is owned by the or purchased by the central or state government, then this type of company is known as government companies. Okay, now its formation, how it is formed. As per the provision of Companies Act 1956, these type of companies formed by the act which is called Companies Act 1956. So, who managed and controlled the government companies? Board of directors appointed by the government and elected by the shareholders. Students, look, if there is a 51% share is of government, so 49% share is of private people, or we can say that another public or another industrialists. So, who manage and control? Government, and also the members who is elected by the shareholder. Okay, now finance. They can raise fund from the public as well as government, okay, through shares, debenture and bonds. Now, what are the merits and demerits of government companies? It is a government company, so it is very easy to form because it is controlled, it is comes under the government, and a very easy procedure, Companies Act 1956, which is which we have to register our company, then we call that we are having the government company. So it is very easy to form. Next one, flexibility of raising fund. There is a flexibility in raising fund because we can raise our fund from government or from public also, means we can issue our share to the government and to the public for fund. Okay, now next one is operational flexibility. No bureaucracy, prompt decision, means the interference of government is very minor, so there is no bureaucracy and it is very easy to take quick decision, prompt decision, because who administrate there, who control and manage there, the members who are appointed by the government and as well as by the shareholder. So it is very easy to take decision. There is no compulsion to um, take permission from the government in every situation. Next one is facilitate private participation. Means it if anybody wants, any private person, a private or any industrialists want to purchase a share of these type of companies, then he also welcome. Means private participation is also facilitates there. Okay, so these are the merits of government companies. Now demerits of government companies: lack of accountability. Lack of accountability is there because the number of owners, number of shareholders are more, number of contributor investors are more, so only one person is not there to answerable. Okay, so lack of accountability is there because there it is a large organization, so we can't blame anybody, or we can't point out anybody for any mistake. Okay, so only one person is not accountable because there are many more person who involve, who run its organization or company. Next one is absence of real autonomy. Absence of real autonomy means, yes, autonomy, what do you understand by autonomy? Autonomy means independency. So there is a lack of independency, real independency, because because 51% share is under the head of government, means controlled by the government. So real autonomy is lack there. We can say that there is a flexibility in taking decision, we can take prompt decision, but in many areas, in realistic way, there is a lack of autonomy. Okay, means we can't means the independency in taking decision, in doing work is lacking in some areas. Okay, so this is the demerit of government company. Next one is lack of professional skill. Students, like if I as I said that the board of directors or the members of board of directors are selected by the government and as well as by the shareholders. So if the person appointed by the government is not having any professional skill, but he is appointed by the government, so we have to contribute with him, we have to consult with him in every situation. So the professional skill which a company wants is lacking in him. So we can say that the lacking of professional skill is also there due to many reasons. Okay, because government control is also there, government members is also there in the board of directors. So these are the demerits of government companies. Now examples of some government companies like BHEL, Bharat Petroleum, GAIL, NELCO, ONGC, NTPC, NMDC Limited, and many more. All these are the examples of government companies. Okay class, this chapter has been completed. Start making notes and also start learning your previous chapters. If there is any problem, you can ask me and call me personally for your queries. Okay, thank you. Sai Ram.